The man you're about to see ruled his country for more than 4 decades. He survived coup, assassinations, sanctions, bombings, and international isolation. He called himself the leader of the revolution. The King of Kings. The guide of the nation. But in the end, he was not in a palace. Not in a courtroom. Not even surrounded by his army. He was hiding in a dirty concrete pipe, bleeding, exhausted, and completely alone. While the world watched the final moments of one of the most feared dictators of the modern era. This is the brutal story of the last hours of Muammar Gaddafi. For over 40 years, Gaddafi ruled Libya with absolute control. He came from a poor Bedouin family, born in the desert near Sirte, far from the power he would one day hold. As a young officer, he believed Libya had been humiliated by foreign influence and weak leadership. In 1969, at only 27 years old, he led a military coup and overthrew King Idris. There was almost no bloodshed. And overnight, the young officer became the ruler of an oil-rich nation. He closed foreign military bases, took control of Libya's oil, and promised to give power to the people. He created a system he called the Jamahiriya, a state run by the masses. But in reality, all power stayed in his hands. For decades, Gaddafi ruled through fear, loyalty, and absolute control. Political parties were banned. Criticism was dangerous. And anyone suspected of betrayal could disappear without warning. Outside Libya, his name became linked to conflict and terrorism. He supported armed groups across the world and was blamed for attacks that shocked the international community, including the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie in 1988. Sanctions crushed Libya's economy for years. Yet, Gaddafi remained in power, surrounded by luxury, guarded by elite units, and protected by loyal tribes. By the early 2000s, he tried to change his image. He gave up weapons programs, restored relations with Western countries, and promised reforms. But inside Libya, anger was growing. Oil made the country rich, yet many people saw little of that wealth. Corruption spread. Freedom did not exist, and fear ruled everyday life. Then came 2011. Across the Arab world, governments were falling. Tunisia, Dictator. Egypt, protests, revolutions, and uprisings spread like fire. When demonstrations began in Libya, the regime expected them to disappear quickly. Instead, they exploded. Crowds filled the streets demanding change, justice, and the end of Gaddafi's rule. The government responded with force. Security units opened fire on protesters. Snipers appeared on rooftops. Hospitals filled with the wounded. Within days, hundreds were dead. Instead of stopping the uprising, the violence made it stronger. Army units defected. Cities fell out of government control. Weapons were taken from military bases. And soon, Libya was no longer facing protests. It was facing civil war. Gaddafi refused to step down. On television, he called the rebels traitors and promised to hunt them street by street. He warned that rivers of blood would flow if the revolution continued. And the world began to watch. As fighting spread, reports showed civilians being bombed, neighborhoods destroyed, and entire cities under attack. The fear was growing that Benghazi, the center of the rebellion, would face a massacre. In March 2011, the United Nations approved military action to protect. Within days, warships in the Mediterranean launched missiles toward Libya. Air defenses exploded. Radar stations burned. Military bases were hit one after another. NATO aircraft filled the sky. Tanks were destroyed. Convoys were wiped out. Supply lines collapsed. For the first time in decades, Gaddafi's power was breaking. Rebel forces advanced from the east, the west, and the mountains. City by city, the regime lost ground. In August, the final assault on Tripoli began. Fighting erupted across the capital. Gunfire echoed through the town. Streets. Snipers fired from rooftops. Explosions shook the city day and night. Then the impossible happened. Gaddafi's compound, the center of his rule for over 40 years, fell. Rebels stormed the walls, broke through the gates, and took control. Inside, they found weapons, documents, and luxury. The man himself was gone. Gaddafi had vanished. For weeks, nobody knew where he was. Some believed he had fled the country. Others thought he was already dead. But he had not run. He went back to Sirte, his hometown, his stronghold, the place he believed would never betray him. There, surrounded by loyal fighters and tribal allies, he prepared for his last stand. By September, Sirte was the final city under his control. Rebel forces surrounded it from every direction. Shells fell daily. Buildings collapsed. Food and water ran out. Inside the city, Gaddafi moved constantly, hiding in houses, bunkers, and underground shelters. He avoided phones, radios, anything that could reveal his location. He was no longer the confident leader seen on television. Witnesses later said he looked tired, thinner, older, but he still refused to surrender. His plan was simple: break the siege, escape south, reach the desert, survive. But the circle around him was closing. By mid-October, Sirte was nearly destroyed. Rebel fighters were advancing street by street. NATO drones watched every movement from the sky. Gaddafi knew the end was near. On the night of October 19th, he made his decision. He would try to escape. More than 50 vehicles gathered in secret. Pickup trucks, SUVs, armed fighters, bodyguards, and his closest commanders. They would leave under darkness, without headlights, moving slowly through the ruins of the city. If they reached the desert, he might survive. If they were seen, it would be over. Unknown to them, drones were already watching. Hours later, as the convoy moved out of Sirte, heat signatures appeared on surveillance screens. The signal was sent. Targets confirmed. At dawn, the attack began. A missile struck the front of the convoy. Seconds later, bombs hit the rear. Vehicles exploded. Smoke filled the air. Men ran in every direction. The convoy was trapped. Some were killed instantly. Others jumped from burning trucks and ran toward nearby buildings. Gaddafi survived the blast. Covered in dust and blood, he ran with a small group toward a roadside drainage pipe. It was narrow, dirty, barely large, enough to crawl through. Inside, they waited in silence. For a moment, the man who once ruled Libya was hiding underground, like a fugitive. But the rebels were already close. They followed the destroyed convoy. They saw the smoke. They found the footprints. One fighter noticed the pipe. A grenade was thrown inside. Then they looked, and there he was. Muammar Gaddafi, crouched in the darkness, wounded, shaking, unable to escape. He was pulled out into the sunlight. His face was covered in dirt and blood, his clothes torn, his body weak. The crowd grew fast. Word spread that the dictator had been found. Fighters surrounded him, shouting, pushing, hitting him with sticks and rifle butts. Some screamed in anger, some in disbelief. For decades, they had feared this man. Now he was helpless in front of them. He was dragged to a pickup truck, thrown in the back. Cameras recorded everything. The footage would soon spread across the world. In the chaos, nobody was in control. Shots were fired. People pushed forward. Voices shouted over each other. No one knows exactly who fired the final bullet. What is known is this: by the time the truck reached the next checkpoint, Muammar Gaddafi was dead. The man who ruled Libya for 42 years had died without a trial, without a speech, without the power he once believed would last forever. His body was taken to Misrata, placed in a cold storage room. For days, people came to see it with their own eyes. Some wanted proof, some wanted closure, some wanted revenge. 3 days later, the war was declared over. Gaddafi was buried in the desert, in a secret location that was never revealed. No monument, no grave for the public, no final ceremony. Only questions. Could his capture have ended differently? Who gave the final order? And how did a man who controlled an entire nation end his life hiding in a concrete pipe? History is full of powerful rulers, but very few end the way Gaddafi did. From absolute power to absolute collapse.